Welcome everyone to another episode of iConis podcast. Today we are jumping into the past with what? With who? Rocket Robin Hood. Who? You'll find out. You'll find out. Barry, tell him about Rocket. Actually, no, not yet. You know what we need to do. I'll be quiet. Go ahead.
Roll the intros. Hi, everyone. Oh my gosh, it's been a while, and we were back. We're all still here. We just kind of, a little bit erratic at moments. We enjoyed a good life. Once again, this is the iConis podcast. I'm Barry 3D. On my side is the one and only DJ
Rod C.
Yes, sirree, Bob. And as we said in the intro, we are talking about Rocket Robin Hood. You're going to look at me going, what? I'm like, hey, we're Bayesians and we're Canadians, and we've got to encompass all of that. So there we go. Before we jump into it, please, remember, like, subscribe, and share. Don't let the show be a secret. And a huge shout out to Larry Rick Lozado, right? So he does the Forgotten, Obscure, and Underrated Heroes. So please check out that Facebook page. Respect the rules and everything that's going on there. A lot of fun on that page. And a huge shout out for him because Larry's been doing all the shorts. So check out our YouTube shorts. You'll see Larry dropping some great fan cast quickies, or some fast fan casts, I like to call them. So check those out and share the love, right? Don't let the show be a secret. On top of that, you can find me at barry3d.com. That's my website. You'll see all my links to where I'm performing next. I've got a couple of shows coming up June 14th, June 29th, and some random ones here and there. So please keep an eye out for it. You'll find me on the comedy scene. This is back in Montreal, but of course, I'm always expanding my wings. All right, Rod, real quick, where can we find you?
You can find me in the World Wide Web. Definitely find me on Instagram at Mr. Rod C, MRRODC. Found me on Twitch, twitch.tv/DJ Rod C. Let's go.
All right, that's cool. And now, before we forget it, we got to remember the one, and well soon, my brother, but the one and only. If you need any kind of digital work done for your graphic artist to do any work for your website, place of business, podcast, or beyond, there's only one man you can turn to, and that man is the one and only
J Bird Digital Art.
Mr. Jason Reese, J Bird Digital Art. Shout him out. Tell him that you've heard about him here on the iConis podcast, and he will give you a discount on the work. All right, there we go. So we did a round table, we did our greetings, we did all that stuff, and now we're going to get down to the meat and potatoes of today's episode, or tonight, this afternoon, whenever you listen to it or watch it. We are talking about the one and only Rocket Robin Hood. Band of brothers marching together.
All wondering, what are we doing? Don't worry.
I don't know. It's catchy. It's catchy. So, we do a lot of comic books. We do a lot of geek shows, geek stuff, and even TV shows, and check out the past stuff. We got a lot of things going on the channel and try to, share our interest with everybody else on there. So thank you for tuning in and always being there. So today we are going to talk about Rocket Robin Hood. So Rocket Robin Hood was a cartoon that was, even though it was shown worldwide, it was done here in good old Canada.
Hey.
It ran for, 3 seasons, 52 episodes plus the pilot. And on top of it, you had a lot of names on here that would surprise you. Each episode was like a half an hour episode or 22 minutes without the commercials. And it made its launch in 1963.
Not 63, 1966.
Sorry, my bad.
1966.
1966. This thing is older than, okay, wow. We're going way back. Now, why I wanted to talk about Rocket Robin Hood today was because, one, it was the concept. It was a very basic concept, and the whole idea was it was Robin Hood. And we all know the legend of Robin Hood. You've seen the movies, with Kevin Costner. You've seen the cartoons. You've seen the shows. The Disney movie where it was a fox playing Robin Hood. Okay, fine. We got all that. So it was the Rocket Robin Hood is the descendant of the original Robin Hood in the year 3000. Seeing that we are, in 2026, we're getting closer.
Anything is possible. Just make sure
Anything
is possible.
Right. Oh my goodness. Okay, so before I dive into it, I know I was a
Mm.
fan of this show. It
Oh
hooked
yeah.
me as a kid because once again, we all know anything dealing with space, rockets, whatever. Look at the logo. It's an old school rocket ship. Maybe it doesn't make sense for a comic book show, but it's an old school rocket ship. I'm down with it, like those 50s. So anything with space and science fiction, and it was a cartoon, had me drawn in as a kid, right? And it got a lot of syndication play in the 70s and 80s. So there, I was all about it. Some stuff was a little bit weird, but we'll get into that. Rod, did you ever watch Rocket Robin Hood when you were younger?
I have. I have. I mean, I guess by the time, definitely, because before my time, so I wasn't a whoop. I wasn't alive as yet. But on the reruns and syndication, yes, that's when we picked it up and I saw it. I mean, I agree. It's the premise of
Mhm.
Robin Hood in the future. Robin Hood in the stars. So already that's a great concept right there. You like I know Robin, I know there's Robin and the Friar and everybody, but Space Robin? What's that all about? And we have the opportunity to be educated in the world of Rocket Robin Hood. And I will just say I was involved. I was intrigued. It was I would just say it was before its time in that regard that, again, 1966. So what was coming out in 1966? You got your it was before Star Wars,
Yep.
before Star Trek.
Yep.
You Star Trek would have been late 60s. So it would have been around the same time. Would have been the same time frame. So I mean it got that vision, it got that type of inspiration that I would believe that let's do something for the kids, do something very unique. And again, this is Canadian product. This is Canadian IP. So having that kind of concept coming out from this side, to me, was just very phenomenal. And I personally grew up watching it. Didn't know any better, but I'm happy that I didn't know any better. That I stuck with it. Anytime that was on, focus, focus. That's all I'm gonna say. If you start going back, you can find it on YouTube. You can find some clips right there. Trust and believe. You will watch it, and you will become focus.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh. Okay. So you brought it up. I had to look at my phone real quick, right? And just to give you an idea. So yes, you're right. Focus. We were focused in. If you're Canadian, if you watch Rocket Robin Hood, Lockwood Yan, uh, the Beachcombers, and the Littlest Hobo, use Canadian. So on top of that, so you're saying 1966. So let's tell you how good 1966 was. So 1966, we had the original Star Trek series, right? Okay, we know that one. We had the TV show on ABC called The Time Tunnel, right? I think it started out in black and white, if memory serves me right, and then they changed the color. Then we had Lost in Space in 1966. We had Thunderbirds. Yes, and it's exactly the one you're talking about. Thunderbirds with the puppets with Jerry Vision, right? Okay. Yeah, right, with the Tracy brothers, and they all had Thunderbird 1, Thunderbirds are go. Okay. We had Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Once again, one of my movies. I like their submarine. I was all involved. And of course, come on now, that should have been really obvious. Batman. Best. Batman 66. That's why it's called the comic book's called Batman 66, because Batman and Robin with Burt Ward
I don't.
and Adam West was in 1966. So that was the landscape of TV back then. These are the shows that we were going on. And
Facts.
then we had the cartoon Rocket Robin Hood. Now,
Facts.
Rocket Robin Hood, it was almost the same time as the original Spider-Man cartoon. And we'll get into that in half a second. So we'll go back with that. So as I said, the main protagonist, so Rocket Robin Hood and all his merry men. So that's Little John, Will Scarlet, Maid
Mm-hmm.
Marian, Friar Tuck,
Right,
you
Tuck.
know,
Yep.
they were all descendants from the original characters that we've read about. And I know they're always trying to find the true remains of Rocket Robin Hood, of Robin Hood. It was he a real person that, just like King Arthur. So they're looking at certain things, and it's all over on the Discovery Channel, the Learning Channel. I mean, at TLC for
Mm.
when they're not doing all the craziness. And so there we go. And we're still trying to find him, right? Was he a real person, and how much was reality, and how much was myth?
Hmm.
So we
Right.
get into the whole concept of robbing from the rich, giving to the poor. That all stays right there. Instead of Sherwood Forest, there was Sherwood Asteroid. And that's where they all lived on an asteroid belt. They had these cool looking spaceships that would fit the time of 1966, a little bit long, round in the front, clear canopy at
Yep.
the top.
Hmm.
Now, the big miss for me is you came up with this whole thing. I was all on board with it, fan of it. All right, cool. As a kid watching Rocket Robin Hood, there was never any action figures of Rocket Robin Hood or their spaceship or a playset. Like
That's
it was it, that. Come on, how do you
that was a
have?
miss.
Well,
That was a
was
miss.
how do you have that marketing? Come on, Canada.
Well, you see, that's how unfortunately, I mean, you're right. It's come on, Canada. I don't know if they didn't have enough faith in that IP, but at the beginning, they ended with 3 seasons. So you
It's
pass one season, you're already good. You pass the second season, you're already good. Like you
mm,
see today's age of, um, Starfleet Academy, finished one season, failed the second. Unfortunately, at this time, there's no more. But back in those days, they just kind of like as soon one season was done, they'll make the decision. Are we coming back in the next summer? We'll let you know. Come July, hey, get yourself. Be back here in August. Woohoo! That kind of scenario. So they were always right to the last minute figuring out if they're going to be here or not. So they can last three seasons. They did good, but unfortunately, I agree with Barry. It just seemed they didn't have faith to put into it, or for whatever reason, they should have been some more marketing. There should have been more of like toy lines, something to expand on,
yeah,
because at least as a Canadian IP, um, it's one of those classics that we can say any adults now from you know Gen X thinking back in that time, that was like top tier stuff. You talk to anybody in our age demographics who you mention Canadian, you mention Rocket Robin Hood, someone will just like take a moment just to inhale memories, and that's it. That's all it is. So yeah, we there should have been something more on that. But you know what?
mhm.
Hopefully we may be able to kick us some dust after all this, and who knows?
Exactly. And especially right now with how the toy market is, right? I mean, we always have the big houses, you got your Hasbros, your Mattels, your Kenners
Yeah.
that are making all these toy figures. But there's a lot more smaller toy companies that are around the world that are doing great stuff, even better than uh the main manufacturers, like
Hmm.
by far. And just do a look, you know. If you look at that Warhammer line that's being done by I think Goy Toy, that's
Hmm.
amazing. And they do like Warhammer. They've got the turtles. They were doing amazing things with that. I mean, even Todd McFarlane, he made Superpowers collection. He made them more affordable and bringing back memories. And it's creating created a creator a frenzy, but a collector buzz. I mean, I've
Hmm.
jumped on the bandwagon. You've seen our unboxing videos where I've been unboxing all of those from Wonder Woman and Invisible Jet and Batman and so forth and yada yada yada. And then so not to get off topic, I think it should have had toy line. I think they really missed it with a toy line. And it didn't have to be overly done. You already had your main characters, you had your couple of villains. So look, you had
Hmm.
Rocket Robin Hood, and all the characters had a generic jetpack that had arrows in it. They had bows. Little John had his electro quarterstaff that he would pull
Staff.
out from behind his belt buckle, and it would expand as a quarterstaff. And he had little jet boots that looked like Hermes wings. They put on his feet to fly around. And so, a couple of accessories, give me the spaceship, and then you give me New Sherwood asteroid. That's it, New Sherwood Forest asteroid. So, kind of a place where they could, hang out, eat, and stuff like that. And then
Hmm.
you had Giles. Or Giles. Giles was the cook. And him and Friar Tuck were always at odds, right? So Robin had his bow and arrow. Will Scarlet, had his bow and arrow. Little
Hmm.
John Quarterstaff. Maid Marian, I think, used a laser gun sometimes, right? And then you had Friar Tuck. He didn't use nothing. He just turned around and sumo wrestled everybody,
That's right. That was his weapon of defense.
right?
Big belly
Dad
man,
bod.
good man,
That's right.
dad
Big belly
bod.
man. Dad bod. He was dad bodding it before dad bods were a thing, as we're talking about right now. They were bouncing off that. You'd see that man. He would be the ultimate. He was not a role model for us kids, right? Because our parents would see that and go, man, look at all that food that man wasting. That's every time they would do. So the episodes were broken down like this: three
Yes.
7-minute segments,
Yep.
right, per episode. So the first 7 minutes, okay, starts the storyline. You come back second 7 minutes, storyline, cliffhanger, and then you wrap it up in the third. Now, in between that, you get little vignettes. So it's like, oh, Robin Hood, he's the descendant of, Rocket Robin Hood's the descendant of Robin Hood from back of the day of old, and you do a whole little thing, and then little John and all of them. The one that always cracked me up though was my boy Friar Tuck.
Right.
He's in front of a full table, and my man would be eating, but only takes one
One
bite.
bite. Huh.
Pelt it behind him. Bite. Right? Chicken. Grapes. Piece of pie. Like, so, obviously food's a lot cheaper in the future than it is right now. So I'm ready for the year 3000 because I walked into like an IGA and I saw a pack of chicken legs for $30.
My goodness.
Pack of 6.
My goodness. Getting crazy out in these streets. That's all I'm saying, man.
Right?
Getting
I'm gonna
crazy
make
out in
brother
these
want to.
streets.
Yeah, I'm gonna go and raid the neighbor's garden and just eat carrots for the rest of my life. I'm gonna put on a rabbit costume and eat for free. When they try saying get out of here, I'm just gonna hop over the fence. I'm gonna be full out vegan. You see me
Do
running
what you
around
gotta
your
do.
neighborhood, that's right. I'm gonna be the dark Bugs Bunny. That's what that is. Oh,
Mm.
what's up, Doc? It's like, yo, what's happening, Doc?
Yo.
Can I rock? What's up, Doc?
He's like,
Can
huh?
I rock? What's up, Doc? All right, if you know the song, you know the song. All right, man. Cool.
Ah, yeah, but sorry,
All right.
that was funny. That was funny. But yeah, that always had a little bayonet kind of scenario, little what you would call it, like a self commercial for each
Right.
character. So that was yeah,
Yes.
that was fun. You're right. Fryer
Uh,
was the best one.
of course, So that's how I look at it. But okay, the merry men. So we include Little John. Okay, Little John, even though they call him Little, he was the big, strong guy, right?
Hmm.
Friar Tuck was the thinker. Will Scarlet, he was a second in command behind Robin. Robin, of course, was the all-around jack of all trades, man with a plan, got it going on. Marion was not so much a damsel in distress. She was, I would say, maybe intelligent. She knew the
Yep.
computers and all that. So everyone had a function on the team. Now, we didn't see more than those characters really there for the Merry Men,
Hmm.
carrying on the same thing. And no matter what they did, they always smiled. To them, they were playing a game of tag, they weren't fighting evil. They were like, tag, you're it. They were playing hide and go seek. It was very whimsical. There was only a couple of times you see Robin get serious, and that was later on, and I'll explain why. So, um, so the original studio, it was initially produced, so it was in Toronto, and it was Al Gust and Trillium Productions, right? So Al Gust Trillium Productions, that was the studio in Toronto. There we go. The key figures, the executive producer was Seamus Callahan, led the first season. Financer Steve Krantz owned the show, right? Owned the show. So that was it. And then you have the Bashki era. So Ralph Bashki, so if you don't know, he's done cartoons that you would recognize his art style, right? Some of them are more adult theme, but for the essence of the show, if you look up the old school cartoon Lord of the Rings,
Yep.
the Lord of the Rings cartoon, where was that fluid motion, or another one called Fire and Ice, with that fluid motion and art style, right? That's the guy who was behind that, and he
Hmm.
came to work on Rocket Robin Hood. So it ran for 3 seasons. Season 1, okay, I think we're good to go. Season 2, all right, no problem. Season 3, there was some there was some issues. There was some issues. It was like who owns what, and it really breaks it down. So let's just put it this way: Ralph Bashki was brought into oversee production after Krantz became dissatisfied with the quality and missed deadlines. So they thought it was like $18,000 to produce an episode. They thought it was too much with the voice work and everything like that. They wanted to bring that budget down. Ralph was able to bring it down to 14,000, but of course they used a lot of generic backgrounds. Now
Right.
here's the crossover is if you watch a couple of episodes of Spider-Man back in the
Yep.
day,
Hmm.
dun, 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 Right? If you watch that Spider-Man back in the day, you will
Hmm.
see there's the two episodes where it was very psychedelic pink and purples and backgrounds. And that was borrowed from Rocket Robin Hood, or was it the other way around? I might have it, but they both shared that because it was the same studio
Right.
that worked on both these cartoons, even to the point there was one villain that crisscrossed into both episodes. If we had fans today, like back then, so to speak,
Hmm.
someone would have probably yelled out the famous words crossover or multiverse. Like, think about it.
Yes.
Same villain showed up to fight Spider-Man with the same background, with the same trippy whole thing. And people were like, is this an LSD moment that someone's having? And no, no one was doing LSD, but it was very psychedelic. Once again, it's the 60s, peace, love, and happiness. And that's how this cartoon came about with season three.
Hmm.
And you're looking at it going, wait a minute, is Spider-Man and Rocket Robin Hood in the same universe?
Interesting.
Right? So I'll go through a couple of points I know I wrote down. Uh, but Rod, did you notice that kind of crossover with the
Uh,
earlier Spider-Man cartoon?
it's more on, checking back for the show and everything like that. I think I might have seen that particular episode. Like I
Right,
might have come across like in passing. Right now I'm just, but I didn't put two and two together that it was crossing over with the same what you call it, Rocket Robin Hood. Like, like
right.
'cause we're not looking to Spider-Man right now. But as
No,
you say that, I'm just trying to see. I think I might remember that. Now I'm gonna have to go back and search and just not realizing that it was one and the same. Like they were using the same backdrop. But again,
same
cut
backdrop.
costs. This is what they do. You know how it is. They're just trying to save, film and, I mean, background, IPs and stuff like that. So you're like saying, yeah, so Rocket, Robin will be coming from the left from this particular side over these trees, right? Didn't we just do that like, about like 4 episodes ago? Yeah, bring that panel. Bring that panel. Put it right back again. Put it right there. Thank you very much. Anyway, wait, he's going now from left to right to left. We're going back to the pilot. I swear I saw him in the pilot. Yep. Bring it
Yep,
up, bring it up.
exactly.
That's how to save a coin or four.
And that's it.
Yeah,
As I call it, hashtag Bob, right? Brother on budget. Okay,
love it.
brother on budget. So we talked about Rocket Robin Hood. So of course he was fighting. The antagonist was Prince John. We had Prince
Mm-hmm.
John and the Sheriff of Not.
Not Nottingham, just not.
Not right.
Not is enough.
Well, I would say okay, wait, so it was Prince John, the cruel space tyrant, and the Sheriff of Not. So the Sheriff of Not, NOTT,
Mhm.
stands for National Outer Space Terrestrial Territories.
Tell me you're Canadian without telling me you're Canadian.
Northwest Northwest
Just saying.
Territories.
Just tell me you're not Canadian. Tell me you're Canadian without telling me you're Canadian, right? Interesting. Let's educate the children. They'll know their
Right?
territories. We'll add this to the mix. There you go.
Well, of course, there we go, right? So it ran from 3 seasons, 1966 to 1969.
Mhm.
69 is the year I was born. Okay. Keep your mind out the gutter. Um, 52 episodes, as I said, there we go. Uh, as I said, we had the signature style segments, 1 and 2 ended in cliffhangers and followed by a previous recap with the next segment, and it was putting it all together. Um, and that's what it was. And the animation style, known for its limited and sometimes poor quality, what do they call it? Poor quality, uh, often featuring still bodies with only moving arms. Oh no!
This is what we must do. Hey, you know what? It's like early days of we're jumping to another IP, He-Man, because again, it was the same kind of scenario back in the days. You had the same kind of still, and everything else was moving except just what we need, right? Listen, everybody's working on a budget back in those days. I don't know what they were doing with the extra money.
Hashtag Bob. So, and just if you look back at the old school Marvel cartoons, it was the same
Right,
thing with the Fantastic
100%,
Four, the X-Men,
100%.
Thor. Namor,
100%.
the Incredible Hulk, Captain America throws his mighty shield. Like his whole body stayed still, and it's only the arm that moved and the shield flew. So back in 1966, this it was the norm.
It was a
Right?
norm.
I mean, it
Exactly.
was the norm. We that was the best we got. Like we got, live action Spider-Man, and well, at the time when it was a TV show, it's the best we were going to get. All right. So we can't be hating. So now here's where it comes into, right? So there was a legal battle, and there was a falling out between Steve and Al Guest, led to so there was a legal battle. Falling out between the producers Steve Krantz and Al Guest led to production moving to New York, right? Then, of course, there was the escape. There's where Ralph Bakshi, forced to flee from Canada. My gosh, I should put on my glasses. Forced to flee from Canada to avoid arrest by the Canadian Mounties after being accused of stealing production materials like model sheets. So, this is
Goodness.
why it was Man on the Run for a cartoon. Of course, did he run and just move his arms and everything else stay still?
Listen.
I Oh my god, go on, Steve Austin.
Same.
So they're falling out. Who owns what? He grabs supposedly the model sheets, makes it over to New York, and they finish the rest of the show there in New York from Toronto, right? So Toronto, New York. I don't know, what's an 8-hour drive, 9-hour drive? He still had to get across the border. Yeah, borders are a little bit more lax back then than now.
Facts.
All right. So then, of course, and this is what I mean by the Spider-Man connection. They recycled animation to save money. So Steve recycled, animation sequences from Rocket Robin Hood for his 1967 Spider-Man series. So he took from Rocket Robin Hood and used it in the 1967 Spider-Man series. And those are the episodes we were talking about, right? So one episode, it's called uh 2 episodes. So there you go, right? From Menace to Menace and Dementia 5. And that's where we're used for Spider-Man. So they took from there and used that. So that's where we got the same backdrops, the same villains, and all that they came across. So if you pull up those episodes, you'll see them. And the animators, they simply painted Spider-Man over Rocket Robin Hood on the original cells and reduced and reused the same dialogue.
Goodness. Same dialogue? That's gangster.
Copy paste.
That's
Hashtag Bob, brother on budget. So they didn't change the dialogue. They didn't change nothing. You hear me? Nothing. Nathan.
fine.
They just made it work. It's like, okay, they used the same dialogue for the main villain, everything else going on in the background, the narrator. What they did
Fine.
was just kind of update it to Spider-Man, and then has Peter Parker. So that voice actor kind of doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
Copy, paste.
110%.
Control V, man. Oh, geez. Yeah, right? So now under Ralph Bashki, the show took a darker turn,
Mm-hmm.
had a more of a darker feel to it, right? So that's when we got more of this psychedelic feel, and the grounds were all the pinks and purples and those kind of colors is smeared together, as opposed to clear cut, like backdrop of the castles and the stars. It was really, and even the music, it was, as they would say back then, it was trippy. So I know it was
Listen.
long. Yeah, it was trippy, man. There was rumors of illegal narcotic use. Those were rumors. Nothing was ever proven. But once again,
Say it
hey
ain't
man,
so.
peace, love, and happiness.
Say it ain't so. Say it ain't so, Robbie. Say it ain't so.
Oh,
My
man.
goodness.
It is, man. It is. So there was a couple of things here. Well, so I mean, one, it's a Canadian classic. Obviously, we're talking about it because we remember
100%.
it from our childhood one way or the other. And I'm hopefully a lot of you remember it from your childhoods. Or if not, you're curious, you might flip on YouTube right now and do a search for Rocket Robin Hood and
Yes,
get
sir.
caught up with the theme song. It was so
Yeah.
catchy. So catchy.
I'm about to say, let's talk about that for half a second. I
Go on,
mean,
go on. Go on,
it's
music man.
listen, when you hear that, again, you understand this is supposed to be, Sherwood Forest, Robin Hood type of vibes, type of scenario. So it starts off with a melody, like if a bard was singing you a song, a tale. Let me tell you about a tale about a man they call Robin, Rocket Robin. It's all it was. Come run. I can't remember right for word. I wish I had thought about going into this joke and I would have had the words printed out or laid out. But it's all it is just like hitting the keys, hitting the strings. Like, come follow this Mary. Oh Lord, how did it go? How did it go, Pete?
I
How did
got you. I got you. I got you. I
you
got you. I
started
got
it?
you.
You
Yeah.
started. But either way, you will
Here we
listen to
go.
that and you will probably listen and think, what the hell did we just send you guys to? I'm telling you, let the first bridge just pass on by. Take it
All
in,
right.
enjoy it, soak it in, and then it just gets more energetic. And then you'll be like, that's when you get pulled in. That's when the psychedelic comes in, and you feel again transported, pulled in, loaded in to Rocket Robin Hood.
Oh, of course. Hold on, man. It's like, come
Oh
gather
my gosh.
around, space
Space
travelers surround
travelers.
me. Hark now to the ballad of Rocket Robin Hood.
Oh
I may
yeah.
well confound you, astound you, spellbound you with heroes and villains, the bad and the good. I know I can't sing.
No,
Watch
that's
now as our rockets race from here and up from afar. From now with our Robin, we live on a star. 3, 2, 1, blast off. Band of brothers marching together, heads held high in all kinds of weather. With
oh
fiery
my
blasts on our roars, with our
yeah,
rockets
oh
roaring,
my
rise beyond the
it
earth,
uh,
beyond the skies. At the side of Robin, take your stand. With a gallant leader of our band, send a joyous shout throughout the land for Rocket Robin Hood. Thank you. I know I screwed it up a couple of times, but that's it word for word. There
word for
you
word.
go. It starts off slow and picks up fast.
It just picks up. Oh my goodness. It is one of those kind of classics that, if you ever have the chance, search for it, look for it. Just take a couple of episodes in and just remember the time that it was made, then yeah, it's not as fluent as you would expect or you think about right now. But for the time and everything like that, is one of those kind of classic cartoons that basically, you know, anybody will probably be running home, making sure that they've done their homework or whenever they make sure that it's on. Stop. This is basically the early days of parents making sure their kids are being watched by TV. The TV
Yes.
nanny put Rocket Robin in front. Mother knows I got about 25 minutes to do what I got to do before this kid tears back down my house. Go gadget. Do what you got to do.
Gotcha. Absolutely. And I mean, look, it was done by, the main voice was Len Behrman. So
Mm-hmm.
he did Rocket Robin Hood, right? Followed by Ed McNamara, right? Who did Little John, Paul Klingman, who did Friar Tuck, Chris Wiggins, who did Will Scarlet, Carl Banas, who did Dr. Mantra and the Titanor, of course. And then here's my boy. My boy is this one, Cohen. He was a narrator. His voice sold it all together. All
100%.
right.
100%.
Oh boy. So here's a couple of tidbits for you that once again, we're Canadian. Is it true or is it not true? And this is what I found just searching the internet. So in Mississauga, right? We're talking now on Mississauga, Ontario. It seems that there
Mm-hmm.
is a couple of streets that are named. And now the question is, was it named after Robin Hood or was it named after Rocket Robin Hood? What was influenced it? So some people say it's because of the cartoon, and some people are saying because of the person.
Wow.
Right. So you got Fire Tuck Court, that's one street, etc. And there's other couple of ones that have, the Robin Hood myth themes to it. If you look enough, you might see them right around Mississauga. So there you go. It had different names. So I know it was aired heavily in Brazil. And in Brazil, they turned around and they called it Super Robin Hood instead of Rocket Robin Hood. Okay. So we just had to go down memory lane with that one.
100%.
Hopefully you guys found that entertaining. We're not done yet.
100%.
So, Rod,
Yes,
what would
sir.
you like to? I got my vision. What would your
Mm-hmm.
vision be today? Here we are in 2026, time of recording. It's March 29th, time of recording. 2026. Would you see for future of Rocket Robin Hood?
I've been trying to debate this one right now because I can go either way. I can do
Okay.
anime, I can do
Right.
cartoon animation, no
Right.
problem, hands down. And
Okay.
I can see a live action, no problem, hands down. I
Right.
will admit it's like I've done the casting. and I did casting for a live point of view.
Okay.
Um, these people can do the voiceovers. Even then, some of them you don't even have to worry about it. Like I said, I didn't do everybody. I
No,
honestly
no,
I did
no.
Robin, I did Friar, and to me, those two are the main ones. Like you can get anybody per se to be Little John,
Mhm.
you know, um, Will, Scarlet, May Marian. But
Mhm.
these are the two characters to me that always pulled us in. As you can hear, we talked about Friar Tuck. We're talking about Robin. We
Right.
talked about Little John, but we were
Yeah,
more
yeah, yeah, yeah.
emphasizing. We were definitely pulling by those two. So
Okay.
I would, for people that I chosen, I actually would like to see it live. Now, if they did a cartoon, an animation on, it will give you more. I've said this before. The great thing about animation is these days you have the ability to expand on the vision, on the imagination of what you can or can't do. You're limited when you're trying to do it live because then you have to say, okay, well, we need CGI, we need all this technical, the
Right.
all imagery for the back end. But if you draw it out, it's less expensive, less costly for that, and you can just definitely expand and get more detail. Um, all that jabbering, gibbering, jabber to say, I would like to do a live one. And who I have in mind is twofold. So I wanted to like Rocket Robin Hood is, as we said, towards the end of the series, it became more serious, but it wasn't
Yeah.
always serious. It was always like a
No.
comical kind of nudge, and there was always happy times.
Right.
Merry man, everybody was happy. There's some little poking fun. You make fun. This is a cartoon for children, so you have the sheriff, Prince John, who's always kind of like you know, like a Roscoe Pico train. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I've been honestly, guy. I've been watching clips of that for the last little bit. That's for the last few weeks now. I've just been come across that, and I've just been Duke boys, Roscoe
Boys.
Pico train. I'm just
Oh
dying.
man.
I'm just
Okay.
going into that. But
Do it.
because of that, and we're doing this, I had to
Okay.
go that comical aspect of it. So I would like.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna cast for Robin
Hmm.
and Friar Tuck. So for
Okay.
Robin,
Hmm.
I would like to have Glenn Powell. Now, Glenn Powell, the last two things we've seen him do is the Running Man, like
Yes.
the remake,
Yep.
and as well as Chad Powers. Now, Chad
Right.
Powers is the one when he was, he basically had to come back as uh, a quarterback, and he basically had to kind of like change his appearance to still play, kind of scenario, right? So it's the
Yeah. Yeah.
comical
Yeah.
aspect in there is what I like. Like he can do a little ribbing and be a little joker in that kind of scenario. So I would want to lean on that part with Glenn. Now the action aspect of it, because now this is a futuristic George Jetson kind of thing. So we're gonna have some action. I'm gonna expect some type of uh fighting the sheriff's army, his men,
Hmm.
the merry men versus sheriff's men, and
Right.
being outwitting them, and the asteroid and doing a whole bunch of stuff. So there's going to be a lot of action and running man. So we go to the
I love
running
that
man
movie.
to do that. Oh, listen, that's it. Anyways,
I was always a fan of
I'm
the original
gonna
one.
say,
Okay.
yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Side note, yeah, that one of those remakes that did justice. Chef Kiss. Anyway, we'll get into that another day.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah. Yes.
but yeah, so I would like Glenn Powell to be Rocket Robin Hood. Now for
Okay.
Friar Tuck.
Uh-huh.
Friar Tuck to me is serious. It's serious first, then he's funny.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Both of them are serious first and then funny. But
Yes.
the person
Yes. Okay.
I'm saying is we know him as being a comical genius in that regard, right? He's a great actor. He's comical, and he can do both sides.
Mm.
But I would like to have Jack Black as Friar Tuck. It's nearly saying going without saying. It's one of those things that if you can have him, because as in the show, he's the guy who makes all their equipment and stuff along that line. He is the Joker per se, rubbing jokes. Again, He loves his food. I'm not going to deny man that. We need to have at least two separate scenes, at least, where Friar Tuck is going in and just waxing off a plate, a pot, a boar, a food, a boar.
Or
I'm letting this man to
before.
come and just ha 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 ha. Jack Black, yeah, he can take that scene, ad lib it, and just take it to another level. So
Oh man, that's so good.
so Little John, again, you just need someone who's very large. I was actually thinking about Chris Hemsworth, but I'm like, in the age bracket, um, I wanted Robin to be younger, like in his 30s kind of scenario, and
Okay,
then you have
okay.
like the elder of Jack Black being like the elder uncle, kind of like I've seen what's happening out in these wooden streets, Robin. I got stories to tell you. You sure you ready to battle to go against the sheriff? I got some ideas of how we can do it, but as they always made, Friar Tucker is always someone who's older, who's been with the people, who's been there for a while. So I need to give Jack the older type of position, but then to me, Little John, his team has to be all in that same age bracket. So that's why
Right.
I'm sure
Right.
there's someone out there who can. I just didn't have anybody envision at this time.
Wow.
uh, Will could be, again, Will made Marion, um, Little John could be up and coming. That'd be unknown to me.
Mhm.
Shout out to anybody who, you want to make a position, do that. Producers, go and find them. But I'm telling you, at least if you get Glenn Powell and you get Jack Black as these are your anchors to bring in, I think you're gonna do good. Just
That's
saying.
amazing. That's amazing. Okay. All right. So I like wow, those are some absolutely fantastic. Fantastic. So here I am. So this is one of the few times I'm gonna go so retro, it's gonna hit. So I love what you're doing. So live action, even with our voice work, those actors were all work for those characters. We do it animated
Hmm.
way, and I respect that. And I went totally different with this, and it'll bear with me. So I've not cast anyone to play these characters, and it's not a cop out, and I'll explain why. I'm
Mm.
going back to what seems to be happening right now in the comic book industry. So I'm always talking about go back to your local comic book stores, check out the books, support everybody. I preach it, I say it, I live it. I want a comic book. I don't want a live
Oh,
action
okay.
show.
I see what you're doing.
Right, because, and I'll mention why. So, Dynamite Comics has brought back a lot of properties where they brought back, the superpowers. And I don't mean DC superpowers, but they called them, the superpowers, and brought back, a lot of those old time characters that we've talked about when Larry's been on the show.
Hmm.
Right. Thunder the Barbarian now has a comic book. He never had a comic book years ago, and they brought him back with a comic book. Right. Okay. If you look at Buck Rogers, they brought him back with a comic book. You look at
Yeah.
Deja Torres and John Carter, Warlord of Mars, they brought him back with a comic book. So a lot of these properties at Space Ghost, there we go. Space Ghost came back with a comic book,
Yep.
right? It was a whole 12 issue run, Future Quest, where it was like Johnny Quest and everyone around the Hanna
Yep.
Barbera that was brought into that, and then he came back with a mini series, and then he's come back with his own series after that. Even with Gatchaman, as we know it, Battle of the Planets, but Gatchaman. So they come back with comic books. So what I'm looking at is, what? I don't remember a proper comic book being done for Rocket Robin Hood.
Hmm.
Now it's got to come down with a proper angle, proper writers, and all that. So I
Yeah.
think that if we can generate more, buzz around that, I would go fully comic book with this.
Okay.
Now, I didn't fully back out on this. I have things in mind. So, what I would like to see in the comic book is to tie the original Robin Hood to Rocket Robin Hood. Don't let it just be a descendant. And he had descendants the whole way, and he's like, "Well, I'm going to pick up from my great descendant and do all that." Let's make it a little bit darker, and the tone show ended a little bit darker. Let's add some conspiracy to it. So maybe he's not a true descendant. Maybe someone has found the original burial site of Robin Hood and the Merry Men, got that DNA, and was able to clone them in the future to stop what was happening with maybe the descendant of the Sheriff of Nottingham, right?
Hmm.
And
Okay.
Prince John. Show them because as a prince, kings, princes, they always share a name. This is why you have uh, Charles II or Charles III and da 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 da, right?
Right. Right.
So it could be named after it should still be a prince as a descendant. I'm good with that. But
Hmm.
then Robin Hood might be say, hey, this guy's getting out of hand. We need someone that can rally the people. And it could be a secret cabal organization that would turn around and said, well, we found the burial site. Here's someone that inspired hope in in adversity and can lead the people and have an organization bring back Robin and
Right.
the merry men, the key ones we mentioned, who inspire the masses now, and let that go. But don't say who this organization is. Let that be the surprise. And
Hmm.
write a whole story along those lines with what they think. Oh, well, we're descendants, not realizing he's a clone of the original,
Right.
brought back to life in the year 3000. Keep all that going. And then you have a couple of things. You can bring in another player that would be maybe from a different dimension. You could bring in another person that brought them back and maybe is a true descendant, but wanted to inspire people and knew the secrets of Robin's burial site was passed down family to family. Like if you look at the movie Vinci Code with Tom Hanks, right?
Hmm.
And okay, well, and you find out that the girl at the very end is a descendant of Jesus. Okay, so there's a couple of things you can play with. Maybe one of the people that brought him back was, maybe it was the sheriff of Nottingham that was secretly working against Prince John to bring him down for whatever reason. There's a ton of possibilities and stories that can be done
Yeah.
today in a comic book. Now, I want to keep this Canadian. So I look at Canadian writers and artists that I like. And if you're a fan of the show, you can go back and see one of the first interviews I did with a artist and writer on Captain Canuck, right? Which is Kalman Adrofsky.
Yeah.
So Kalman did, not the original run of Captain Canuck, but when they brought him back, where he has more of the armored costume and the two batons on his back, almost like Nightwing from DC Comics,
Right.
that would be the person that I would go to, seeing that he understands the whole concept of Captain Canuck and brought him from where Richard Comley started him up to now. I would go to Adrian, Haleman and said, hey, what you did for Captain Canuck was awesome. Can you do it for Rocket Robin Hood? And he's Canadian. And
Mm.
he would understand the secret thing because in our interview, we talked about a video game called Mass Effect. And if you played Mass Effect, one, two, or three, we don't talk about Mass Effect Andromeda. If you talk about one, two, or three, then you see that there's a whole secret organization that's behind Colonel Shepard and works on that. And him being a fan of that, him actually casting who he wanted as Captain Canuck, if you watch that interview, and there's hints of that. And then you give him this property and say, run with it as an independent comic book, be it if it's like under Chapter House or something like that. But we got to keep it fully Canadian and then get it out there. Watch, watch. So that's how I'm going. This one time,
Like that.
and I might do it more in the future, but this one time, I want a full out comic book and let's kind of some tones to it and more direction and go forward. Right.
Okay.
And it's almost, if you were a fan, this is a obscure maybe comic book. It's called Outlaw, like DC Comics, where if you read that, I think it was an 8 issue or 12 issue miniseries. It was taking place in the future, almost like a Mad Max, the world's kind of gone to, heck in a handbasket. And they needed someone to push him forward. And this one person, people thought he was a little bit crazy, and he literally wore a green like sweat top or jacket with a hood on it, but he
Hmm.
took up archery, and he was inspired by the tales of Robin Hood. He wasn't a descendant of Robin Hood, but people called him Hood. They called him Outlaw. He formed his own merry men and went through all that. So if you read that and play Mass Effect, and then think about it and then get someone like Kaleman to work on this property, that is the comic book I need to see.
Okay.
Rocket Robin Hood as a comic book. Now, where it goes in the future, don't know, but I think it'll be a little bit more interesting and easier to pitch it. Even if it's a miniseries, you'll get the nostalgia and the curiosity.
Right.
Because let's be real, we all love archers. If not, then there would be no Hawkeye, there'd be no Green Arrow, there'd be no Speedy.
Right.
Okay, there'd be no, right? Like, but archers have existed. There'd be no Shaft from Youngblood. I don't mean Shaft. Shut your mouth. I'm talking Shaft from Youngblood. You wouldn't get these characters because everyone loves an archer On
Yep.
every superhero team, Yondu from the original Guardians of the Galaxy with a blue skin, right? Not him just using the arrow, but him with the arrow. And everybody loves
An
archery
archer. Yep. Yep.
because you want to see the trick shot, right?
Yep.
Legolas, right? Lord of the Rings. Come
I'm about
on
to say
now.
Legolas. Yeah. 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 I
The
was just
list
thinking.
goes
Yep.
on. The list. When you play D&D, you know, hey, it's better to get someone at a distance than to fight face to face because you can get a couple of licks in on them before they get to you. Archery. Rate your art, or archer ranger or
Yep.
archer, right? Like depending. Okay, there we go. That's my 2 cents.
Ranger man. Yeah. 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 Dungeon and Dragons, the cartoon. I
Thank you.
clip. I had a,
Thank the
I had a
ranger.
mental clip. I had a mental clip of the show, the cartoon being on the movie, and I just watched the movie yesterday. So I was like haunted just to watch it this week. So yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right. An archer, having an archer on your team on your quest is always an asset. So yes, you're right. A comic book. I like that. I like that. I like that. It could definitely, stir the pot, get, get the momentum going and get people refamiliarized or just newly familiarized to people who he is and the stuff along that like that. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Thank you.
Because again,
Thank
it
you.
goes back to what I was saying before about the cartoon. At least going that route, your imagination can now easily spread wide open and just basically have so much fun that you can just create anything, that's relative to that particular storyline. And you're not limited by cost of, production and having, do we have enough budget for CG and all this? Nope. Draw it out. So yeah, you even went further. You went 2 dimensional. I was going 3 dimensional at least, with a cartoon and all that kind of stuff. But you're right. Throw that into a comic book. Yeah, that would work nicely. That's a nice run. I like that one. I do like that one.
Thank you.
I like
Well,
that.
well, we've come to the end of this episode, everybody.
Mm.
Thank you for tuning in. Rod, any last words before we wrap this one up?
No, listen, you know what? Support, as Barry would say, support your local comic book, and don't keep us a secret. If you like what you heard, make sure you, follow, subscribe, tell a friend, send this out. Like I shout out to KD. We're just talking to her about and letting her know, hey, I do a podcast. Send out that link and everything like that. You know what I mean? Like let it, let everybody know we're out here. All right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll say this, my friend here, Hallie, shout out to you. Yes, I know you're watching these shows. So yeah, and all the new subscribers that have joined over this time, right? So we are getting new people joining this time. So appreciate your support and your comments and all that. And we love to keep it positive. We always answer back. And I'll say, check out, Check Swings over here on the South Shore, or check out Wild Comics out in Kitchener. Those are two comic book stores that we love to go to, and we have a lot of fun. You can tell those guys you heard about them on the iConis podcast, and they will be greatly appreciated. And they'll have those books for you. On that, remember, this whole world was started by a pencil, a piece of paper, and lots of imagination. Keep on dreaming. We're out.
It's